The second tip I have for closing a sale is going to be closing throughout the processes in small steps versus trying to make the close in one big leap. What can seem kind of confusing, especially if you do follow an 8-step selling process like what we preach, the closing part actually comes after you present the solutions and before you fill out the application. Don't be closing while filling out the application. There is a step in there. But again, what I call them is check-ins. When you're performing these check-ins throughout the appointment, what you're actually doing is just doing miniature closes. And so you're using phrases like, does that make sense? And you're describing how something works. Does that make sense to you? Another one is like, so does this solve the problem that you mentioned earlier? Because if you're watching the fact finding, if you haven't watched fact find, go back to last week. You don't need a time machine. You just need the YouTube gods. Go back to last week's episode. Learn how to fact find to where it makes sense when you're presenting these products. But if you're talking to somebody and you fact found correctly, then it's using phrases like, now would that solve the problem that we talked about earlier? Doing these little miniature micro check-ins, so when they're used to saying yes, that would solve it, then they're more likely to say, if they're with you the entire way, then it's likely they're going to agree at the sales part.
Yeah, the little soft closes throughout the entire process.
Little check-ins.
Little check-ins.
How you doing?
Because it makes total sense where if they're not following what you're saying at the end, they're way more likely to say like, nah, it doesn't really make sense to me. And you can't.
Where did I lose you?
Back, like it's so much harder than backpedal and be like, well, let's talk about it again.
Yeah,